Welcome, everyone. This, believe it or not, is in fact You'll Never Talk Alone. We are actually recording again. Obviously, have not been able to find the time much over the past few weeks, but that's okay because it gives us a whole lot of really freaking good football to enjoy in the meantime. Liverpool just absolutely hitting all kinds of stride, and then some. Most recently and notably with a 5-0 absolute dismantling of Manchester United that the entire sporting world took notice of, it feels like. So, lots to talk about. I'm your friend Joseph Craven. I'm joined by Alex Level, and we will have just so many praises to sing, which is always good. Like we're in it's a good time to be doing this right now because like there's not a huge amount of stress going around aside from maybe trying to figure out whether we can afford to keep Mohamed Salah. There might be that. There's not like a lot of drama of like, oh well, our best overall player and top defender, got drubbed by a rival keeper. That it's not the stuff that we were dealing with all of last season. It feels good right now, doesn't it, Alex?
Yeah, it's strange. It's been a while since everything has gone well. I know
Yeah.
it's weird that it's a year rather than like 10 this time, but man, once you get used to things going really well, when it stops going really well, you get really mad and upset and everything sucks.
And last year, as we've noted, sucked.
Yeah.
Last season sucked. It was amazing that we were able to do what we were able to do with like the limited everything that we had all of last season, and the huge amount of injuries and never being able to play anything similar to how we wanted to play. It feels like an eternity ago, but it was bad, and we're kind of over it now and flying high and staying relatively healthy, and actually having depth for the players that aren't staying healthy. So yeah, it's great. It's great. And I think we just need to go ahead and get into some of the details of it before, I run out of things to intro.
Yeah.
First of all, I feel like at this point, and I mentioned him already, and we need to go ahead and chat about him right now and get it out of the way. I feel like there are no more superlatives that describe what Mohamed Salah is doing right now. The man is putting together absolute world-class goals against world-class opposition. Like the goal that he scored against City, where he just like worked everyone around. I mean, that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Not to mention following it up pretty much every match since then with a goal that just about comes close. And then just the performance against United, where it just seemed like he wasn't even trying and got a hat trick, the first hat at Old Trafford in the Premier League by a visiting player. So that's just amazing. I've run out of ways to describe him at this point. Like, how do you even talk about the run of form he's in? I know that the debate is, well, is he the best player in the world right now? Like, I don't even feel like that's a debate worth like having because it's just impossible to describe this form he's in right now, right? It is insane. What do you even say about him?
He's just unstoppable. He's unplayable. Usually, like that word doesn't really seem to make sense, but it's totally true.
But I love it.
No one can play against him. He's just
Yeah.
too good. He's too on form. He's too confident. He's feeling it. I mean, he scored that amazing goal against City, and then he just did the same thing again against Watford. Like you don't just do that.
Yep.
Like it's kind of on that level at this point where you look at someone like Lionel Messi, and like he just does stuff week in, week out, and you kind of become used to it. We're still kind of doing that with Mo Salah. Like we understand the goals that he's scoring are unbelievable, and we're freaking out about him. But even it's just like the simple stuff and the finishes that he does that are so difficult, but he makes them look so simple. Like the second goal that he scored against United with the first time volley, like that is incredibly difficult to do in the position that he was in. He just made it look like the easiest thing in the world. And then you look at the third goal where it looks like his touch is too heavy, but no, he's fast enough and he did exactly what he wanted to do and dinked it over to Gea. So, like, he's just so influential. he and everyone around him are so in sync, and he's just, I don't know, like he's commanding such a presence like on our team and for rival defenses. Like you could look at some of the calamitous defending that United did, and part of it is because they suck, and part of it is because they were so worried about where Salah was that they just forgot to mark anywhere else on the field. Like you could see Luke Shaw coming inside and running into Harry Maguire, or just leaving that entire box open because he was following Salah. He was so focused on Salah coming inside that he was like, it's more beneficial to me to leave this entire half of the field open and mark this guy with someone else than to let him come inside and be one-on-one with somebody. And it didn't even work. So he's in everyone's head. He's got, what is it, like 15 goals already? Like that's stupid. That's stupid. That's not real. That's FIFA on easy mode is what that is. He's just he's having his way with the sport at this point, and just give him the dang contract.
Yeah, I mean, the joke is always that it's video game numbers, but like these are video game numbers. Like they just like there's no other. Yeah, that might be the only superlative out there left to say is that this looks like somebody got onto a video game, probably one in which Mohamed Salah actually is rendered to look like himself and not like some sort of zombie version of himself. Thank you, Konami, for whatever it is you're doing. But it looks like somebody got on there, and yeah, like you said, it doesn't seem real. It just can't. It's so mind-boggling. I think it's pretty obvious, and I think it's obvious to everyone in charge as well that like they have to figure out whatever they can to make, whatever wage demands he has work. Because he doesn't strike me as the type of personality who would really want to go somewhere else. If the money was right, he just kind of seems like after having bounced around so many different clubs, basically being labeled as a Premier League bust when he was at Chelsea, and then like redeeming himself and then coming here and doing what he's doing now. Like, I think after all that, it kind of seems like he's the type of personality who just would probably want to stay where things are going well, So I'm hoping that helps things out because the as soon as whatever demands he's making are met, like he would want to stick around, hopefully. It's all wishful thinking, of course, but he kind of seems like he's having fun. And there's no guarantee of that elsewhere.
And I don't view him saying in press interviews, like, I don't want to leave. I don't view that as him doing something like, oh, let me get the fans on my side to pressure the club into getting what I want. No, I view that as him genuinely wanting to stay. Like, I think above all else, you look at not just his goals, but his reactions when someone else scores. He's just so happy when Liverpool succeeds. And it's really rare that you see someone like that genuinely connected to the club. That's not like from there, or maybe not even someone who like necessarily grew up a Liverpool fan. But like he's just so freaking thrilled every time we score a goal, every time we win. And I know it's been pointed out a lot, but he really does play with a smile on his face all the time. And he's just loving life. He loves being on this team. Like this team is built around him succeeding. So of course he's not going to want to go anywhere else. But he's also more than willing to get people into play as well. Like we think about the Henderson pass to Salah for his third goal, but he did that like not too long ago to Mane. He did the exact same pass. So he's willing to be provider. He's willing to be goal scorer. He just wants our team to win, and he wants to win more than anything with us. So just get him signed, keep him here. He's clearly wants to stay. He's clearly a valuable asset. And there's not much really else you can say that doesn't fall short because he's just so dominant.
Yeah. You look at like even just like his social media presence. At no point does he really strike you as somebody who's sitting there on social media wanting attention. Like He'll post a shirtless photo pretty often, but I mean, if I looked like that, I would too.
Yeah.
But like, you don't see him rocking a huge amount of sponsorships in general. It's like a very select few, which I think is pretty similar in a lot of ways to how Lionel Messi's always been. Like he always kind of has seemed like personality wise, he didn't like the attention much. He seems like a more reserved personality. And he just kind of exerts all of that tension on the pitch. And so, Mo kind of strikes you as the same type of, personality in that regard. And I mean, look at Messi. He stuck around in Barcelona for a long time. Many of those last years in Barcelona where they weren't doing him any favors,
Yeah.
So he was almost loyal to a fault for a bit there. So they strike me as like similar personalities. But that of course we can say that from afar. We don't know them personally. Who knows? They could both be absolutely the worst human beings that anyone has ever met, for all we really know. But just amazing. I don't like the unnecessary comparison debates of like who's the best player in the world right now. But I don't think there's any way to argue that he is playing the best football in the world right now.
Yeah.
I just don't see how you can argue that. I don't even think that's like a dumb like clickbait debate. I think that just is he's straight up playing better than anyone, and it's insane to watch. We just got to soak in every moment. So we mentioned a little bit about the City goal that he was able to score. Obviously, earlier in the season was that matchup against Chelsea. As of right now, obviously it feels as though the three title contender teams are, us and those two. It seems like, there was that point early on where I think we had talked about it, where United was kind of in that conversation at the start of things, and the next thing you know, like something goes wrong and everything goes wrong for them. And it kind of showed that they don't have the fortitude or the leadership to actually be in contention. And so, like, once again, one of the best teams in London, West Ham, now sneaks up there. Brighton still hanging on there. Tottenham and United and are struggling. And Leicester was kind of slow out the gate, I feel like, and they not quite up. They could easily end up in one of those top 5 spots. But it seems pretty safe as of right now to say that the race is looking like Chelsea, Liverpool, City. What do you think that the results that we've had against them so far have taught us about the makeup of this Liverpool squad right now and how they can compete for a title? Because I feel like getting draws, you like to get a victory, but not giving them 3 points is big, because if you keep winning elsewhere, that makes up for it. But what do you think we've kind of figured out about the team based on those results, those head-to-head matchups we've had now?
We're good enough to compete with anyone, for sure. That is clear based on the results. It's a bit unfortunate that those 2 draws were the home fixtures against those
Agreed.
2 teams, because it was one of those, just 2 of those matches really, where the way they unfolded really could have gone our way and probably should have gone our way. Like, we had the upper hand. You'd probably say we're the better team in both matches overall. It just didn't end up going in our direction by the end of it. Like, we played Chelsea really early in the season. The match was helped in terms of goal scoring, but hindered in terms of our ability to like actually have open spaces by the red card. Yeah. So that kind of sucked, and we were still not quite on it. And that was like the one match where Mo didn't score everything that he touched.
Right.
So that was just kind of a bit unlucky, a bit unfortunate for timing and like the way the ball fell. City match, the only difference is, besides Alisson's performance, is that weird deflection off of Matip. Like that, we were 1 foot length away from winning that match and probably should have. It just was unfortunate, but they're a good team and they have beaten a lot of other good teams throughout the season. But I think Chelsea in particular are going to face a particularly tough stretch coming up with both Lukaku and Werner out. Like, I know we joked that Werner can't score at all, but so much of what he does off the ball and even on the ball is just so influential in dragging defenses out, and he creates so much space for his teammates. And without those two, it's going to be interesting to see how they cope. I mean, they've got more than enough players to do so because they've spent a butt ton of money. But
Right.
It's not near always as simple as having a bunch of good players, as you can tell by United, and that will be a real test for them because there's a lot of difficult fixtures coming up. And I mean, City, yeah, they're good. It will probably come down to us playing them again. Like, that's what it'll be. It'll be when they play
Right.
Chelsea. It'll be when they play us, and it'll be up to someone else to just throw a random result in, like the Brentford match that we had, where it's back and forth and it just doesn't end up finishing with a win either side. Like, that's what it's going to take for us. But really, yeah, I think it'll be those two teams as long as possible. But the biggest, toughest test for any of the three is right now for Chelsea.
Mm-hmm. And also the fact that, I mean, we have to remember that, Tuchel has only been there for a relatively short amount of time. So there is still an aspect of, like, as good as they are and as good as they've played and as great as a manager he is, they're still trying to kind of implement some things. They're still trying to kind of get the, what he wants them to be. It's, we know it takes time. We know it takes time, even if you're doing pretty well. Because, I mean, we did pretty well as soon as Klopp got here. But, like, even when you're doing all right, like, it still takes time to really get to where a manager wants you to be. And so I think that will probably play a role in there as well. The onus is on, like that, is on Chelsea to try to prove that they are ready right now. And I just don't know if they're quite there. And this might be a thing where kind of later on they've tapered off some, and next year's the year in which they are like straight up in the mix the entire time and really putting pressure on everyone else. I could see it going that way.
And people also forget, or maybe just aren't as aware because he hasn't really been in England that long, but Tuchel's an asshole. And there will come a time where he and the club stop seeing eye to eye. It doesn't always take that long, but that's coming. That's not going to go away. He didn't stop being weird. He didn't stop being prickly. It's just all sunshine and roses right now. But that's coming. When that comes, it's not going to be fun for them, and I'm going to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny how that tends to work, It's like kind of reminds me of the fact that Jose Mourinho is still employed.
Yeah.
And
got sent off at the weekend and had to miss their match today. It's just typical Jose.
Typical Jose. And that happened, and he gets hired somewhere, and you're like, why are they hiring him again? Yeah. Okay. Here we are. It's similar to that. You just kind of know that at some point something's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't be as big a deal with him as it is with Jose. Who knows? But it is always kind of comical. So yeah, I think what you said was spot on, in that it's, it'll come down to something happening in the head-to-head. We just have to take care of the business outside of that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can't control what another team does. You have to be able to take care of your own business. And right now, I think that we've made it a point to prove that we're capable of that. I mean, you have the draw against City, and of course, you had the whole Brentford thing. As soon as we got through those two, it very quickly went, okay, we have to prove that, like, we are going to take care of business, and that being able to get an even result against Chelsea and against City is going to play a factor into things, because we didn't lose to them. We didn't lose, and if they slip up at all, we will make them pay, because we're going to smash Watford by 5 goals. We're going to smash all of the lower mid-table teams like Watford and Manchester United by 5 goals. Like, we're going to do it. We're going to, so it's encouraging for sure. It's encouraging for sure. So along with all that, I think it's obvious that a major factor of those victories, that success that we're enjoying right now, is the fact that we've had so much more. Well, we've had the return of all the players that we were hoping would be contributors last season. We're having a chance to really see Diogo Jota in a expanded role, and we've even seen. And actually, this is a total side note, but I love this fact. How about the fact that that Jota playing well has like re-energized Bobby Firmino?
Yeah.
Like the fact that they know that like I don't know if it's just Bobby knows, hey, there's actual rotation now, so he can play more naturally and freely. I don't know what it is, but he's looking like vintage Bobby all of a sudden, which is incredible. How about that? How about Bobby?
Yeah, like it's crazy that you look back at the Watford match and he gets a hat. He's not the player that everyone's talking about because Salah's playing so well, but he got a hat trick. That's not something that Bobby Firmino does all the time. And it was such a striker's hat trick too, which is something very rare to say about Bobby considering the way he plays, but he's just been so on it. And it's just, in addition to him being on it and like really kind of embracing the return, I guess you could say, to like the way his role was always intended to be, like him dropping into the midfield and really playing that false nine and like turning us into a diamond a lot of the time. He's just like, he's playing well. And like you said, Jota's playing well. Like we have options. We can make a change at an away match at Old Trafford and not feel weird about it. Like it's just such a unique position. I know that doesn't necessarily apply to all of the thirds of the field. Like it applies to 2/3 of the field, but like it's so refreshing and something that we've missed because we've just had every player on our team injured for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. We talked a lot about at the beginning of the season how kind of when we stopped and took a step back and thought through the transfer offseason, stress that we always go through of why are we not making any signings, or kind of remembering, well, this is the year that honestly, with the joke of it's like he's like a new signing, is actually kind of true because all the new signings last season barely played.
Yeah.
So you get someone like Konate in who, is seeing significant playing time already. And we've seen the importance of having cover for if something happens to Matip, Gomez, Van Dijk, because the Matip and Gomez in particular will never be healthy ever again in their entire lives. You've seen the significance of that. And so you've seen it, that effect that Diogo, just being able to have either Diogo Jota or Bobby Firmino up there. They're both taking advantage of that rotation. And that's so cool because that was an unexpected benefit, I think.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember distinctly myself saying, like wondering aloud on an earlier episode, whether having Jota be the primary starter was like the plan. And now I'm like, toss either one of them out there. Who cares? They're both doing great. I love them both now. So it's been fun. Now that being said, we've actually had you made a joke when we were talking about what to talk about today about how the old trend of our center backs getting injured all the time has transferred to our midfielders getting injured all the time. We have had a handful of those injuries, and we're starting to actually have the midfield depth to kind of deal with it a little bit more. Let's talk about the midfield just a little bit. What's your assessment of how the midfield has done so far this year? Not just with like the injuries in mind, but also talking about obviously not having Gini Wijnaldum, so putting Naby Keita in more opportunities. The fact that James Milner just doesn't stop playing I don't know what's up with that. He's immortal, I think. Stuff like that. What's your assessment of the midfield so far? Because it was the area that I felt like we were the most not unconfident in, but uncertain about.
They've been fantastic apart from maybe like 115 minutes of this entire season. Like you look at the Brentford match and you look at 2/3 of the Atletico match, and those are the only times you were like, oh, this doesn't really look right. And maybe a little bit of the Norwich match, but I mean, they're so bad that even us looking a bit disjointed, like it still was fine. Right. But like even with the rotation, the chopping, the changing we've had to do, just because every time someone plays injured and someone else has to come in, and then that person comes back and the person who took their place gets injured, and it's just this vicious cycle. They've still been fantastic. It's a different look than we've been used to, and it's kind of what we needed to do. We're getting our midfielders more advanced positions. We're asking them to do more like penetrating at the defense, go at people, score goals, be in positions to actually follow up shots and be the kind of like late runner and score. It's not what we've traditionally seen from how we line up our midfield, but it adds so much. And it's something that I feel like we've talked about so much. Like, if we just do this, we'll score a lot more goals. And then we did it, and now we're beating teams like 5-0 all the time because they don't really know how to cope. And it's just such a like all those people coming at you, all those people pressing you. It's so much to think about, but it's been fantastic. I mean, like you called out, Milner has been great. I know we talked about like, oh, he's getting older. We might have to phase him out a little bit. When he's been able to play, he's been fantastic. Him and Hendo and Naby were such a great three over these past few matches, and they've just really clicked so well. And it's a shame that 2/3 of that is now injured, of course. And like you almost forget that Thiago's been injured all season, and like we've barely seen him, and yet we're doing really well. And like when he comes back, he'll be like a new signing. But it's just there's been so many standouts. There's been so many people stepping in and like doing exactly what they need to do. Even Curtis looks so much more comfortable now. Like he was having a laugh today, like just kind of screwing around with skill moves, flicking the right stick everywhere. Just being really confident. So like I love to see how these people are playing, and thank goodness Naby's injury after that terrible tackle from Pogba isn't too serious. So hope to see him back soon so we can have those options that we've been using so well this season.
Between the tackle from Pogba and Ronaldo just losing his mind on the ball as Curtis Jones had it in the ground. It was incredible. This is obviously totally off subject, but it was honestly like almost shocking the complete and utter lack of composure that United demonstrated. It really showed just how wrong things were going on that particular day. But like, if things are going bad in general, you still don't react like that, you know? Like if it's if things are going bad on one specific day, you still don't react like that, you know? That's a direct reaction to a whole lot more going on. That is really humorous for us.
It's so satisfying.
It's so satisfying, and you don't want to feel like too like guilty for enjoying it, but at the same time, you know, I really want to enjoy this. I really want to. So, oh man. All right, I don't want to dwell on them much anymore there, but let's talk about that match specifically though. And it was maybe the most impressive team performance that we've had 4 years. I mean, I'm trying to think of another time. I know we had, obviously, the title-winning season. You could pick, throw a dart at the schedule, and wherever it landed, most likely was going to rank up there. But, oh man, there's just something about. I think it was a victory over City. I want to say that was like 4 years ago, maybe 5. I'm trying to remember. I remember where I was keeping up with it. And that's what's making me think it was about 5 years ago, but I forget which season it was. But it was just an absolute drubbing. This though just doesn't even nothing compares to this one because it was so clinical, yet also such strong individual performances, yet also such an entertaining complete implosion from the opponent. Like there was so much going on to it, or with it. I mean, what were we doing well first and foremost? Like. Obviously, I feel like there was a lot that built up to this performance over the last several weeks. But what about this match in particular, Alex, that you look at and you're like, well, yeah, this is, why we came out and destroyed them. Was there anything you think?
We must have told the squad that we were playing against Porto, and it looked like we were playing against Porto because this is the kind of performance and result that happens only when we play against them.
Right.
So that must have been the pregame talk. Weirdly, like for the first half of the first half, we didn't actually overall play that well as a cohesive unit. We were giving the ball away a lot, and they had a lot of like almost chances if they just weren't so bad that they probably could have taken advantage of. But what we were doing to really put them under pressure was just that. We were putting them under pressure at the back. Like we had such strong pressing that they didn't really know what to do besides boot it. And they lined up in their weird kind of like 4-2-4 formation.
Mm-hmm.
And when they have two mids and one of them is Fred and the other is McTominay, like they're screwed. It's not going to work out for them. We were just taking advantage of that numerical superiority and going at them. And they didn't really know how to cover it. And our movement was clever and our ball movement was clever. And our players were playing smart and taking advantage of the opportunities. And like anytime we saw any hint of a mistake, we took advantage of it. And that's what we need to do. We need to be that ruthless. And when teams are going to roll over like that, like we have to take advantage of it. And we did. And nothing could have helped us more than the manner that it happened too was just so perfect. Like it was a big occasion. They were already probably kind of rattled because they're just a mess internally. And the way that goal unfolded and the way we were so easily able to take advantage of it was just like, it just showed like, this is going to get bad. Like you knew from that moment. Yeah. Even before the match, people had kind of talked about like, oh, they kind of squeaked by. Their first half performance against Atalanta was really bad. And there was like, this could get ugly, but it's also Liverpool versus United. So it's probably going to be a terrible match. But when we scored that goal, you just kind of felt everyone in the stadium, the fans, their team, our team, go like, ooh, this is about to be a thing, isn't it? And it became a thing like very quickly because we just punished them over and over again.
Very quick. It's like, ooh, they're not going to have a good time today. They're just not going to have a good time today. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say if there was like something to like really pinpoint outside of just, I mean, under our understanding that they were wounded, and so we pounced. It was the right time to do so. I think that speaks tons to the confidence, obviously, that we carry, but also this. It almost goes beyond confidence. It's almost like bravado of like, you are not going to compete with us this season. Like, you're just not. Like, we are fighting for a title and you're not. And, we see it every so often. It's been one of those things that, we tend to, outside of the title winning season, we have not always come out with this whole like, this is who we are and we are fighting for a title this year. Just like performance and approach to performances. Definitely did it against, them. It go back to like the Watford match as well, being one of those of just like, we're just here because we have to, and we're going to get our 3 points and go home. It almost felt like that. And it just makes me excited about the rest of the season because it almost is reminiscent of the title winning season a couple of years ago of just like, we know going into the weekend, sit back, get your popcorn ready. Here comes just a masterful performance. You can count on that more so than you feel nervous about what is about to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think we all felt nervous before the match against United. I think we're all texting about it, like, all right, kind of nervy. And then now that that's behind us, I think we realize we really don't have to feel nervous. Even against like Chelsea or City, I don't think we would have to feel nervous. It's just kind of like, okay, let's see what happens in this one. Not nervy at all, which is it's a great place to be because it reminds me more of 2 years ago than 1 year ago.
Yeah.
And anytime we can not feel like we were feeling 1 year ago, I'm happy with that. Yep.
That feeling gets the gold star.
It does. That's the goal. Not reliving last season always gets the gold star. Okay, I do want to talk about. Let's talk about we've been focusing mostly on the Premier League so far. We have had obviously a positive result against Atletico Madrid in a pretty wild match. Pretty bonkers. I mean, how often do you see a player for an opposing team get 2 goals and a red card? I mean, like what an exciting day it was. There also was a performance against Preston North End with whatever that sheep logo is of theirs. Just earlier today, as of this recording, in which we're able to get some rotation in there, and despite a lackluster performance, actually came out with a victory. But let's talk about Champions League right now before we talk about just all the competitions we're dealing with and what our approach should be. Champions League right now, obviously a strong first 3 matches, winning all of them, positive goal differential, kind of firmly planting our flag in the group and saying this is our group. Who's coming with us out of it? Is what it is. How are you feeling about the Champions League and our approach to it in light of also what's going on in the season and those kind of nagging midfield injuries that we're kind of having to navigate? How are you feeling about the Champions League though?
I'm really confident we're going to win every match 3-2, apart from the games when we play Porto, which will win 5-0.
Right.
So every game will involve some variation of 5 goals, and we'll end up winning the whole thing that way. So
yeah,
it's going to be great. Now, I think the results in the group are really going our way, apart from our own, which is really helpful. Like we've really taken a hold of the group, and we passed probably the toughest test away at Atletico Madrid it was rocky at times. It was not the most satisfying match to watch, and it was peak Atletico with how they behaved. You expect nothing less. I do like that there's like a little bit of a rivalry or like tension forming between us. Yeah. It's great. So long may that continue, and really looking forward to welcoming them to a full Anfield again with a match that isn't taking place right as things are about to go horribly, horribly wrong for the world. So I think that'll bode much better for us. But I think we're in a great position. I want to win the group. You always want to win the group. I think that will benefit us immensely. And like we mentioned, we have the current best player on form in the world, and any team is going to be scared to play us because of that. And seeing how we have been performing week in, week out in the league and in other competitions when we're starting children, like anybody's going to be scared to play us. No one's going to want to face us. And it's going to take all of our other midfielders getting injured for that to stop, really. So I'm feeling great.
Now, I'm never going to rule out the possibility of every midfielder we have getting injured.
It's going to happen to anybody. It's going to happen to us.
Yeah, now that like you floated that like purely comedic hypothetical out there, I'm genuinely afraid of it. So thank you for that. It's like a brand new nightmare I never knew I needed in my life, but I've got it now, and I just have to live with it. There's so much. I don't know if there's anything I can distinctly add to what you're saying, because you're right. Like right now, we're it's weirdly routine both in the Premier League and in the Champions League, like the way we're going about business.
Yeah.
And so it's proving that that we were not a flash in the pan, that this was not a one season wonder of a club, or I guess really 2 seasons, the Champions League victory, the Premier League victory the next year. Like we were not just, a good team for a couple of years and we've been figured out. I just wonder though, if there is this, well, obviously everyone wants to win a double or a treble. I mean, obviously. But I wonder if that is like a specific goal that the team said, okay, hey, look, we've won the Champions League in the recent years. We've won the Premier League in recent years. Let's go, put our stamp on this year and say, we're one of the greatest teams ever assembled, and we're going to win them both. So it makes me wonder if that's like a legitimate, like tangible, like, here's our goals for the season. Win it all. Win everything ever. Like I wonder if that's part of it for like the motivation factor.
I'm sure it plays a part, because I mean, you look back at some teams that you would consider great and you look at their overall trophy hauls, and there's always that little bit of like, what if, or like,
Yeah.
we finally remember this team, but they could have been so much more. And I don't think anybody in this group wants to look back at this time and really say that unless they absolutely have to. I mean, no team has ever really had to compete like we have, or I mean, the other teams in the landscape of the sport. So like, it's a unique situation, and you wouldn't necessarily fault the team for only winning a Champions League, reaching another final, and winning one league. But I think this team wants more. I think they all expect more of themselves, and I think they know they can do it. So I would agree that they probably set that kind of bar, even in a cup competition like the Carling Cup, or not the Carling Cup, the Carabao Cup, where let's actually win this thing. I know we've got a good crop of youngsters. We've got some fringe players that are still good and want playing time. Like, we could make a run in this, and when push comes to shove at the business end of it, we can start playing our more serious players. But let's try to win this thing.
Yeah, I get the feeling, like, looking at not really being able to pay a huge amount of attention to the Preston North End match, but kind of looking a little bit at the lineup for it, all of that. Obviously, it was hey, let's make sure that we got our reserves that we're going to count on, some good match time to make sure they stay sharp, make sure that Divock has a reason to break out his back heel shot that he's been obviously practicing so much. His over the shoulder back heel. Yeah, his absurdity. Yeah, because I'm sure he's just sitting around being like, Coach, when are you gonna let me in so I can pull out the over the shoulder back heel goal? I mean, so in light of all that, it seems as though the approach was a little bit more of, we're not just gonna throw the U18 team out there. We're gonna try to keep our reserves fresh by giving them play time, making sure they're keeping in match fitness, and just see what happens. It's not at all like it was a few years ago in which we kept accidentally advancing. Playing a bunch of like 15-year-old kids who accidentally win and keep moving on. Like, it's not like that at all. This definitely does not seem like we're trying to just ignore this competition. It's whatever competition it is. We now, after years of working towards this goal, are built to compete in everything all at once, when we were not necessarily in that situation a few years ago. And that's good. I mean, that's where everyone should be. If you're a top team in the world, you should be there. It's kind of sad that it took us this long to get there, but hey, we're here right now. So
yeah, and I think the way that the first team and the youth teams have kind of been integrated as we've moved training facilities, I think that kind of has furthered that relationship even more. But you look at the youngsters that come in, and they get the MO. They get how things are supposed to be doing. They know their role. They know how they fit into the team. And it really, it doesn't make the performance. I mean, it wasn't perfect today for sure against Preston, but the shell was there. You saw that they wanted to do what they understood what they were supposed to do. It's just they're 18 and they're playing their third senior match for the club against actual professional men, and it's a bit different than playing kids your own age. So it's understandable. But it was nice to see, like, you can see which midfielders will loan to Blackburn next season. Like that path is already established. It's going to be Tyler Morton. So look out for him at Blackburn next season as he thrives in their midfield. So yeah, lots of positives to take. I'm very curious to see who we draw, and hopefully it's not someone dumb, but City going out definitely helps. Don't really have to worry about that fixture coming up.
Yeah, for sure. It's I don't have anything else to add. Yeah, I'm trying to act like I'm. You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. Don't have anything else to add at all. Let's touch on one quick story before we start talking about the official YMCA derby that will be coming up this weekend. One quick story that's coming along is a lot of reports coming out. There's always those rumors to follow, and there's always the rumors always follow uh, Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland, and that's it. You know, like everyone's like, somebody's going to get him eventually, right? If we just keep talking about it. And so, you know, when those names pop up, you don't have to pay attention to any rumors. But the rumors are starting to really ramp up surrounding Calvin Phillips. And so when that name pops up, you're like, oh, well, that actually sounds like it could actually legitimately happen. So the rumors are abounding now that Calvin Phillips, who I thought was obviously we know what he does with Leeds, but to see him with the English national team in the Euros, I thought he was, he's an impressive young player for sure. The rumors coming up that Liverpool and United are trying to battle each other for it, which I think is hilarious. The idea of United being like, okay, well, let's go. If we buy one more player,
the solution to this is buying more people.
Yeah, but yeah. So Calvin Phillips, those rumors are picking up about whether Calvin Phillips is a legitimate target and whether that deal could possibly work out. What do you think about the possibility of him coming here? Because don't think anyone's going to deny his talent, but do you think he fits? Do you think he fits the style? Do you think he fits the scheme? Do you think he'd be an addition, or is this kind of a weird rumor to you?
Two things that I think probably hold this move back is one, that Leeds will be reticent to lose part of their man bun contingent.
Of course.
So I think that might drive the fee up because it'll be hard to find a replacement that has that similar haircut because they already have everybody that has that haircut. But the other thing is that he costs money, and that is not really something that we do as a club. So I don't know if the journalists don't really understand how transfers work or how we deal with transfers, in the sense that we don't do that. That's not how we do things here. So that will probably hold it back, but I think he'd be a fantastic fit. I mean, he's such a multifaceted midfielder. He can do it all. He could fill in for the Fabinho role. He could fill in further up the pitch. He's got great vision. He's tough in the tackle. He never gets tired. I don't think he's ever walked in his life. He's only sprinted everywhere. So I think he would be a fantastic addition if we could get him for the right price. And I'm kind of curious to see what happens, because we're talking about Chelsea's Dark Night of the Soul coming up now, but our Dark Night of the Soul will happen in January and February when Salah, Mane, and Keita are off at AFCON. And those are positions that right now we're assuming that we'll fill with all the injured center mids for Naby, and then Origi and Minamino, who only seem to, we're only progressing in the Carabao Cup to keep them fresh for that 1 month stretch. Right. So is that really how we're going to approach it, or will we actually spend some money? Do we even have any money? If we do spend money, will we still have that fun chant that we have now? The Reds have got no money, but we'll still win the league. I'm willing to not spend money just to keep that around. That has been a revelation this season. So
if we spend money, then we doubly don't have any money left.
That's true.
So it's like, will that actually help? Will it mean that we're now in debt, but we'll still win the league? Who knows?
Yeah, so I'm curious to see. I mean, there's been links as well to Karim Adeyemi from Red Bull Salzburg, who would be someone who could fill in for Mo and Mane while they're gone. But we're a club that is future planning, and if we're gonna buy them, we're gonna keep them for years and years. Is that something we're willing to do? Is that something our squad can accommodate after they get back? Or I'm assuming that Naby will be catastrophically injured, having gone away for AFCON, because Guinea they like to beat the crap out of him when he goes there. They don't ever actually like to play him. So we'll see. But yeah, if it's a real possibility, if we can spend money, let's do it. He's a great player, and I think he could fit in our system more than most.
He strikes me as a little bit of, he's like the halfway point between a Naby and an Ox in terms of play style to me. And I could be just totally wrong in that assessment, but I kind of feel like he doesn't really he likes to press forward while dribbling, but not quite in the same way that Naby likes to do it. But he also likes to play kind of a high intensity, type of high rush, physical, attack with long shots and stuff like Ox will, but a different way. I don't know. He's an interesting guy because I feel like he would be a great fit if either of those players, or if both of those players left, he'd be the guy. Okay, well, let's go get him now because he'll fill both those roles almost. So he's very interesting to me. Very interesting player to me. But yeah, like you said, we still we don't have money.
Yeah.
We got, if we have any money we have is going towards the going in the piggy bank for the Mo Salah retention fund.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a GoFundMe already set up by FSG just for that.
I am as well, because it would get funded immediately. So
oh yeah,
if we need to, FSG, please do that. If we need to keep him.
You got two contributors right here.
Yeah, you got two
on
backers.
This pod. Yeah, as we speak. All right, let's focus ahead just a little bit in the YNTA Derby. That name, of course, coming from the fact that me and fellow YNTA co-founder Zach Osborne years ago had a trip to the UK that involved going to a Liverpool match. The match got rescheduled, so we, on a whim, caught the train from London down to Brighton and had an entire day down on the coast, just eating fish and pounding beers and just enjoying chatting with the residents of Brighton about what life was like there in that weird little city. This is right after Brighton, I think, had just won League Two a year or so before then. So they were just up in the championship. So well before they became a Premier League team, and we fell in love with them, started supporting them then. So it's long been the side team. It's been weird having them in the Premier League for several seasons now, because it's really kind of miss the wonder and the fun of having a championship team to pull for, kind of miss that. Having two Premier League teams to try to support, it's just not the same. But
yeah, and then in true FOMO fashion, when I went to Anfield to watch Liverpool play, this was the match that I saw. It was Liverpool versus Brighton. So that weird. There's another link to it right there.
We have a very weird, just a weird Brighton connection on the podcast. Brighton, of course, starting the season off quite well, but the recent form kind of falling off just a little bit. Lots of draws, the one loss, obviously, to Man City, but a lot of teams are going to lose in that way to Man City. But Brighton right now still hanging on to a 5th place spot. A lot of that because, Brighton has finally kind of started to prove that, they do actually want to move the ball forward and at least attempt to score. Yeah, it's this crazy. I think that concept just now got to them after several years, but they're trying to make the most of that, make that happen more nowadays, and it's starting to work a little bit more. You can see that after several years of being right above the relegation zone, Graham Potter's finally really getting them into the spot that he's wanted them to be at, and they're performing well. Chances are, obviously, that they will likely not be competing for a Champions League spot at the end of the season, you would think, but definitely a lot more confident in them landing in a mid-table spot as opposed to fighting to avoid relegation. So it's encouraging for Seagulls fans for sure, because they got a fun little core there. They're a lot of fun to watch a lot of times, especially because you never know when or where they're going to put Dan Burn.
Yeah.
And he's like, is Dan Burn a striker now? Who knows? Sure, they just throw him out there and let him run around. It's hilarious. But Brighton right now, not playing as well as they had to start the season. Obviously, Liverpool doing very well. What do we need to look for in this match that could pose a problem? Knowing, of course, that when we met last season, earlier this calendar year, it was an awkward match, to say the least. What do you expect to see here? Or what do we need to be prepared to see here, Alex?
We need to look out for the first minute. If Leo Trossard gets injured and needs treatment, that's the sign that they're going to win. Every time I've watched them this season, Trossard's been injured in minute 1, needed treatment, and then come back and played really well, and they've won. The time that they lost to City, he did not get injured in the first minute, and they got their faces stomped. So that's what we really need to make sure. Just don't touch him for the first minute. Just let him go fine.
Yeah.
But
I want to say this. I'm not necessarily a huge. I've never really been a big fan of his work. His comedic styling's just not really for me. But I got to say that this character of Leandro Trossard is probably Pete Davidson's most impressive character. I am really impressed with his commitment to it because it looks like he's going to play the full season in this role, and I think that's really impressive. So anyway, go ahead.
He even earned an Adidas sponsorship, so fair play to him for getting method like that. But
yeah,
I think what will benefit us is it's likely, I think, still just given the nature of what kept him out of the team before, that Yves Bissouma will not be in, and he really transforms their midfield when they play their. I'm assuming they'll probably play their kind of like 3-4-1-2 formation against us with wing backs, because when you have Mark Cucurella and his flowing hair, you let him play the entire left side of the field by himself. But like Bissouma covers so much ground. He is like when we were just talking about when United had 2 in midfield and against 3. He enables the 2 to compete with a 3 because he's able to cover so much ground and win balls and start attacks with his passing. And just given how his situation unfolded, he might not start, and it's such a different look when it's Lallana and Motor in the midfield, or even Lallana and Gross. I mean, I know they all have the same haircut, but it's still a different. They are different enough players, and none of them are really defensive that it will leave space for us. But apart from that, like, we'll have to be wary of the width. Luckily, our fullbacks are fantastic. It'll be our best midfielders against their best midfielders with the wing backs going at each other. So that should be interesting. And I think the other, I don't foresee any issues with Virgil and whoever plays with him against Maupay and Trossard, but Maupay is going to try to start some stuff, and I don't think it'll go very well against us. Like, if you look back at when Ronaldo kicked Jones and Virgil and Konate came over, and we're just it was like the thing when you see a bully like put their hand on the kid's head and they're like swinging their arms trying to hit him. Like, that's what it looks like, and that was what it will look like for anybody that tries to play against us. So I don't anticipate that being a problem. They're a solid team, but I think they will not have the kind of control that allows them to win matches against us, because we're just so much better than everyone else they've played this season, apart from maybe City.
Yeah, exactly. And we see what City did to them.
Yeah.
That was a match that was 4-1, and honestly could have been 7. Yeah, 1. Exactly. You went straight up double digits. All right, respect to you on that. But it could have been so much bigger for them. So it was not it was not as ugly as it could have been. So yeah, it's not really one to necessarily worry about, but there is always that slight worry of, okay, is this going to be one of those matches where we slip up, something like that? But you don't seem to foresee that happening.
No, I anticipate this being a match where we take care of business. It should be fun, it should be nice to watch, but I think we'll take care of business against them.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. I don't feel too worried about that. I would feel confident giving this a 4-0 scoreline prediction. How about you? You got a prediction?
5-0. That's the only way we win matches anymore. It's like when the 13-14, when the season started with like 12 1-0 Sturridge goal victories. This is now the season of 5-0s.
This is it. All right, on the tail end of that also, or on the back end of that, coming up next Wednesday, November 3rd. Wow, that is kind of weird to think that next Wednesday is November 3rd. What happened to us? Is the second matchup between us and Atletico Madrid. It's nice to be able to go ahead and get that second one out of the way immediately after the first one, I think. But do you foresee this being another 3-2 victory?
Yes. That's the only way we know how to win in the Champions League, so that's what will happen. It'll be nice that they won't have Griezmann to play, but I mean, the bad news is that Joao Felix is finding form, even if Atleti are not, and it'll be like we got to watch out for him and Carrasco. Those are the two
Mhm.
that will transform the way they play, and those will be the danger men that will their match will hinge on them. Our match will obviously hinge on all of our amazing players. So it'll be the most comfortable 3-2 victory we've ever had.
Hey, that goes a long way. I'll take that. I'll absolutely take that. I don't. I'm gonna be bold and not predict 3-2.
What is wrong with you?
I'm crazy like that. I'm trying to buck all the trends. I'm gonna be bold and predict that it's like 2-1. Yeah, I know.
What?
Wild.
How do you mute someone else?
I'll do it myself. Here, I'll mute myself, and you just go ahead and wrap up the episode. I'm done.
So, yeah, that's it. Joseph has laid down his terrible trash opinion prediction by not predicting a 3-2 victory in the Champions League. Clearly, he doesn't understand the sport or our team at all. But let us know what you think at YNTA Podcast. I know it's been a while since we've put out an episode, so we'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you for your patience, especially you lovely Norwegian people who have waited for so long for this episode because you're, 7 hours ahead of us? So that's like an extra long time to wait.
I think there's 7
you.
days ahead of us, actually. I think it's that big of a time difference, oddly enough.
Yeah, it's that one section of Europe that's 7 days ahead of us.
It's a week ahead. They're already playing the Liverpool Atletico match over there. And we're just they're gonna know it before we do. Oh man. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I'm gonna say to my credit, I've never once claimed to actually understand anything about this sport. So, 2-1 is what I'm sticking with.
Touche.
All right, well, of course, we want to dedicate this episode to our friend Andrew Ainsworth, wherever he is right now. Probably his house.
Is actually having some distress because he played eFootball, the free-to-play Konami game that we brought up earlier, and sent us some images of what the Liverpool team looks like. And I'd seen them before because Barca have been using the graphics and the player graphics for their lineup announcements for some stupid reason.
Well, that's what's wrong with Barca this year.
In the club.
Why did they? Forget getting rid of Koeman. That's obviously not been the problem.
Yeah, I think the most popular comment on their lineup post has been "I don't know who this is." You can't tell which player they're trying to use.
Oh my goodness! Oh, it's so bad. I honestly kind of want to play it myself now, just to experience it. I sent the pictures to my younger brother, and he replied back and said, "Was Konami trying to make a zombies version of a football game? Because if so, they succeeded." I love it. All right, that will wrap things up. Thank you, Alex, for jumping in here and totally carrying every conversation because I am clueless.
Hey, you're welcome. Looking forward to the next 5-0, 3-2 week that we've got.
As per tradition. This has been You'll Never Talk Alone. We'll see you next time to discuss a collective 10 goals scored. We'll see you next time.